The technology segment, Paul Brislen, with us this morning. Good morning to you, Paul.
Good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm very, very well. First story up today, and you've been covering it extensively throughout this week, is the three strikes law.
Did you call me a dirty media stop-out?
I did. Hey, your words, not mine. The three strikes law, there's some final notices have been sent out from two separate ISPs.
More than that. They're just the first two to go public. Yeah,
okay.
I've heard that most of them have got second strikes now, third strikes. So, it's all fully operational. It's all happening. We're finally going to see what this thing looks like at the Copyright Tribunal when it goes live any time now, really.
So it sounds like this copyright legislation is very effective. It's being enforced. It's being used. Yep. And that's what the government intended.
That's exactly right. So it is effective. We're seeing notices being sent out to people who have repeat infringed. They've taken copyright material and they've shared it online, and so the Act is working as well as it could possibly ever work, unless you happen to be downloading television or movie material, in which case apparently the $25 fee is too high, and they simply aren't bothering to defend their copyright material.
Okay. Well, that's interesting.
Isn't it, though? Because if I spent $200 million on a movie, I would have thought that 25 New Zealand dollars was kind of a drop in the ocean, with the costs associated with losing. How much did they say? $6 trillion worth of investment money over the last few years. Yeah. You'd think they'd actually front up with their $25. But no. Apparently, the TV and the movie guys have decided that it's too expensive, this $25 fee, and they are refusing to pay it.
No indicator about whether or not letters have been sent out for infringing on New Zealand-based content, which was what the government talked about a lot, that they were going to protect local artists, right?
That's right, and that's the other side of it is, as far as we can tell, and I've asked a lot of the ISPs, the only notices that have been sent out, first, second or third notices, have all been about big international bands and acts rather than New Zealand content. So this idea that New Zealand content is being horribly ripped off, and that we're losing millions of dollars a year to dirty, rotten pirates, apparently no. No, apparently that's not true. Either it's not happening, or it's not happening on a scale where paying $25 per notice is required. So I've got to say that the Copyright Act seems to be working quite well. The problem is that the rights holders simply don't have the faintest idea what they're doing, and it's really rather alarming to see them now trying to influence the government yet again. To get rid of this fee, because they just want to be able to, fire out lots and lots of notices without any justification or any cost to them.
Yeah, and as we've talked about on the show before, Paul, a lot of this, of course, is about access to content, and the fact that New Zealanders don't have access to all the content that maybe, say, Americans have access to. But
That's right.
And we talked about the fact that QuickFlix has just launched. There is no HBO content on QuickFlix, even though HBO has invested in QuickFlix, which is an Australian-based company. Interesting news now from the States that HBO is so terrified by piracy that they are now preventing certain types of satellite recorders and time-shifting devices in the States, preventing them from recording their shows even.
Exactly. They're really taking this to the next level now, and there have been a few reports, there it is, that people have got hard drives or other things plugged in to their HBO set-top box. And HBO is now interfering with that process. They've got a piece of software that sits in between your HDMI cable, the standard cable for connecting this thing, and the box. And I'm sorry, you've got some kind of device plugged in there. No, you won't be able to watch television that you've paid for. So, really, unfortunately, we're seeing all too often now the business model getting in the way of business, in effect. We've got customers who want to buy the product. We've got producers who want to sell the product, but unfortunately the mechanism that used to provide for that linkage is now stopping them from doing, their business, and we're not allowed to buy it, and it would appear that they can't sell it to us in the format we'd like. Instead, this has never been about copyright itself. This is purely about protecting an old world business model that just does not work anymore. And unfortunately, companies like HBO have been caught in the middle of all of this and are failing their customers quite dramatically.
It's a real shame. Obviously, they're scared about people putting this stuff online in the form of torrents so that New Zealanders can download it.
Watch television. Yeah.
Game of Thrones, Mad Men, and all that.
That's right.
Moving right along, talking about old businesses. Bad news for Nokia or Nokia, depending on what side of the world you're on. Yeah.
Yes.
That they've lost a whole lot of money, or their profit margins are slimming, and also that their new phones, which I have one here actually, and I'm a big fan of it. The Lumia phones aren't taking off like they want them to.
Well, you're quite right. Nokia's been struggling since the arrival of the iPhone, of course, and it got knocked off its perch as the number one handset maker, and it's really struggled to revisit the former glory days where everybody had a Nokia. What they're discovering now is that while the phones are selling okay in the US, they just can't ship them at all in Britain, which is, of course, one of the bigger cell phone markets around the world. And the reason seems to be that it's a Windows phone and not an iPhone. And, the Brits just don't want to know. They simply don't have that tradition of embedded devices coming in from Windows-based providers. They much prefer the iPhones or the Androids. And this was always the danger for Nokia, that they would launch with Windows in an environment where the sexy end of the market is Apple versus Google. Yeah. And, as you say, you've got one of the devices there. They are really quite cool devices. And if they come out with a tablet on that same form factor, I think I'd probably queue up to buy one because they are gorgeous bits of kit. But it's not revolutionary stuff. It's good. It's got some really nice features. I really like the tiles. I really like the activity of the tiles. So you can drag not just your auction application onto the front screen and see it there, but an actual auction. And it's live and it's updating as it happens, or your Twitch stream, and you can see people tweeting on the homepage of your phone. Yeah, that's a nice to have. It's gorgeous, but I don't know. It's going to sell millions of phones, and certainly isn't in Great Britain anyway.
Unfortunate, really. Moving on though to pretty geeky stuff. Yeah. It's just been announced. Oh, what have you got? What have you got there?
My sonic screwdriver. This is my Christmas present. Hang on, I'll try and get in front of the camera for you. There we are. No, I've gone the wrong way. There we are. This is it.
It's brilliant. Sonic screwdriver, of course, was Doctor Who wouldn't be Doctor Who without it, and he wouldn't be able to do what he does without a sonic screwdriver, which over time seems to be able to do a whole lot more than that's what it used to.
It's a magic wand. Yeah, it's just a magic wand. That's right.
It can do everything. But apparently now there's a real sonic screwdriver out there.
Well, of sorts. This is Durham University. Let me just fire up the browser here. Durham University in the UK has started down the path to what would potentially in about 1,000 years become a sonic screwdriver. And this is using ultrasonic or ultrasound techniques to be able to manipulate material at longer reaches. So you can imagine in years to come that they will develop the ability to operate within a human body without having to cut a big hole in it, first of all. Which is, for anybody who's had surgery and had to put up with all of that sort of stuff, it is quite a tremendous advance. This thing is, it's you can see it on the BBC site. It's rather a large object. I don't know you'd call it a screwdriver at this point, but it uses exactly the same kind of technology hypothesized in the Doctor Who series, right? Which is tremendous to see. It's science fiction often points the way without really meaning to. Yes. I'm always delighted living in the future where we have things like cell phones and lifts lift doors that open automatically for you. And it's all the sort of stuff we saw in Star Trek or Doctor Who all those years ago. 50 years ago today, this year it kicked off. And it's tremendous to see them coming to life. I'm always excited by that kind of thing.
Can you imagine you seeing yourself wearing these Google glasses?
I so can.
Yeah?
I'm such a nerd. I want one that clip on the front of my glasses. And provide a head-up display. I'd be, you remember when the first Bluetooth earpieces came out?
Yeah.
And, you look at these people going, what are you doing? And now, it's very rare to get in a taxi and not find your driver plugged in somewhere.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that happens. I'd be delighted to be able to have the ability to access my cell phone secretly while it's in my pocket in boring meetings and have it just display on a thing that only I can see.
Yeah.
I'd find quite a bit of use for that, I think. Of course, the input screen is going to be a bit tricky. I'm going to have to sit there with my hands in my pockets pretending to type on my pseudo keyboard whilst looking at my Google eyepiece.
No, it'll be tapped into your brain, and you'll just be able to think it.
I'll just think at it. Yeah. Oh, that's a dangerous idea, isn't it? And then I'll copyright it all, and then you're all in big trouble. Yeah, that's the only way out. Yeah.
Very, very nice. Continued technology conversation, telco type conversation with Paul on Twitter, twitter.com/Paul Brislen.
Thanks.
I was expecting a sound effect there at the end.
It's not working. I was aiming for a sound effect, but I think I've broken it.